Alright, hello folks. This is my second video, and in this video what I'm going to do is try to explain what this new Chinese stealth fighter that we have been talking about so much over the internet um, is all about. Basically, I'm going to provide some basic information from what I have gathered so far, and sort of basic technical knowledge that we can derive from the current pictures that have been published on the internet. So what we start with is basically the recap. If you watched my previous video, you'll see that from last year there were rumors flying around about this second project. It was dubbed JXX, and now the Chinese aviation industry has multiple manufacturers like the US or European aircraft manufacturers. So two big ones are basically the Chengdu and the Shenyang corporations, and they are rival to each other, and they sort of compete to each other every now and then for different projects and all that, and that has been going on for decades. So the first picture you're looking at was basically an article published on Jane's, which is a military intelligence website sort of thing. They do analysis and stuff. One of the most reliable sources of information on aviation matters or other military equipment matters. Now this is the first slide, and you can see that there's a scale model sitting next, basically underneath the picture on the top, the second picture. This scale model was displayed at Zhuhai Air Show, and it was designed by NOAA, which is Ninjiang University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Then there's a picture on the top where you can see this aircraft covered in a rough camo, and it was being transported to Shenyang province, through Shenyang province on a highway to another Chinese province where they have a testing range. So next picture, you can see this prototype or a semi-finished fuselage in um, in this picture. Basically, it was loaded on a truck, as I said, and it was being transported. So next picture, this is a close-up of the same prototype. You can see it's semi-finished aircraft. There's no cockpit. There are no wings, starboard wing, nothing, no tails, and it's just a raw fuselage that basically was fitted at the factory and then came into a prototype according to my first video. So this next picture, this picture you're seeing is basically a CGI picture that was developed when this first aircraft was seen over the internet, and after this what we saw was the leaked pictures of this new aircraft that everyone was talking about, the serial number of this aircraft being 21001, which was like, J-21 was the designation, but it didn't turn out to be true. So move on to the next picture. Now this picture, as you would have seen it already if you've seen my first video, is the prototype of this so-called J-31 aircraft, and we will go into detail about it later on in the video. So this was the first picture released. As you can see, it looks pretty obvious that it's in its early stages of taxi runs, and as you can see at the engine nozzles, from what I've gathered so far, is that the engines are the Russian Kimolov RD-93 engines. So basically not much of a thrust. I have to say it's underpowered, the aircraft, and these are the same engines that power the Russian MiG-29 Fulcrum, and also the Chinese and Pakistani joint venture, which is known as advanced fourth generation affordable fighter jet called the JF-17 Thunder. So it is basically the same jet engine used in all of those two aircrafts. And then we have the next picture. As you can see, this is the side view of the same aircraft. You can clearly, not clearly, rather, if you look down, you can see the weapons bays are opened. The cockpit is opened, and this side view should give you an idea how big the aircraft is. Roughly, from my guesses, it's as big as MiG-29 or the Lockheed Martin F-35, the Joint Strike Fighter. So basically the same size, and from that I would guess that it's a multi-role aircraft. It would not be much of a bigger aircraft that we've seen before in terms of Chinese J-20, which is massive aircraft, basically the same size as the big earlier versions of the Russian Su-27 flanker. And move on to the next picture. We have okay, now this is very interesting. You can see this aircraft from the front view, and you can see that clearly it has a diamond-shaped nose, which is usually associated to the stealth aircraft because it it reduces drag, gives better aerodynamic performance, plus its stealthy RCS, or the radar cross section, is very low. Then the second feature are the intakes. It is basically so-called divertless supersonic intakes. Now Chinese have quite a lot of experience with the divertless supersonic intakes. Actually, matter of fact, the first DSI, or divertless supersonic intake aircraft, was not Chinese. It was tested on the Lockheed Martin F-16, and then the first operational aircraft to hit the market with divertless supersonic intakes was actually the Chinese-Pakistani co-production of JF-17 Thunder. And what's the significance of divertless supersonic intakes? Well, they are stealthy. They give better aerodynamic performance, and that's why they are incorporated in every, or most of the stealth aircraft that are hitting the market, or will hit the market. So basically, what I've gathered is that Chinese were testing the DSIs on JF-17 Thunder, and then on to the J-20, and then moved on to J-31, this aircraft, and so it is the common denominator between all the Chinese aircraft. So move on to the next picture. This is a close-up of the cockpit, and as you can see that it's a two-piece canopy, which is not very stealthy. It's not considered to be very stealthy because it basically increases the frontal fuselage, frontal radar cross section, I should say, rather. And well, then there's not much to see over here because the rest of the heads-up display area is covered. So let's move on to the next picture. In this picture, you can clearly see that the weapon bays underneath are opened, which is quite interesting. We don't have much of the information on how big the weapon bays are. So we would have to wait for that. And another thing that you might want to notice is on the tails there is an insignia with the eagle. So what that means is that the Chinese Air Force is basically not involved in this aircraft project. Probably, that's just my assumption, because they don't have this Chinese Air Force insignia on it. It seems to be an organization funded project. So the next one, this picture, you can see the comparison between the J-31 and the F-22 Raptor. The size comparison, the aircraft is pretty small when compared to the F-22, and it's basically the same size as the F-35, so it's an F-35 sized F-22. That's the best way to describe it. And this is the frontal view. So you can see pretty small aircraft compared to the F-22. This is the side comparison between the F-22 and J-31. Move on to the next picture. This is basically the comparison, pretty self-explanatory. And the wings of this particular aircraft seem to be around 11.2 or 11.3 meters, which is a bit slightly bigger than the F-35. And then there are some CGI pictures. You can see that it's clearly carrying external weapons load, so a non-stealthy formation. In this picture, the engines look different. We don't know what this engine is. Chinese have been developing quite a lot of their own engines. So another thing you might want to notice in this picture is the weapon bay underneath is still open, and we don't know how big that is so far. So let's move on to the next picture. Now this is very interesting. You can see the underneath weapon bays are open, so basically it's carrying 4 air missiles and then 4 anti-ship missiles and 4 short-range area missiles. And it has a hook. That means the hook and the 2-tracked, like basically double landing gear, is a giveaway for a naval configuration. So this aircraft might be heading for the Chinese aircraft carrier. Next picture. This is just a CGI of what this plane might look like in the future. This one as well, when it may become operational, this is what this aircraft may roughly look like when it's complete. And this picture was also released earlier. It's in a foreign customer insignia, Pakistan, I guess, and but it's slightly different.